This is us, PIN, a motley crew of people who came together to embark on an exploration through Montgomery and Selma, Alabama. Listen to our testimonies as we reflect back on the empowering journey.
Expectations were kind of rooted in a historical observance, really. It was, okay, let's just go see the sights. Let's see what went down. And I was not expecting what I felt. I was not expecting to be on the ground, see what I saw in Selma and Montgomery. The first shock for me was the proximity of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church to the state capitol of Alabama. I had seen historical pictures, interviews, George Wallace standing on the steps of the Capitol saying segregation yesterday, segregation today, segregation forever. I had no idea, literally, if you stood on the front step of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, you could almost look into the man's eyes as he's making this declaration. So I'm like, that proximity, that juxtaposition of evil to good was like, oh my God, I was sucking air.
So I was a history teacher, and that's something that, particularly civil rights, Black history, is something that I've always been not just interested in, but it's a part of my life. I'm originally from Southern Virginia, as south of Virginia as you can get, real close to North Carolina. And so I'm a child of desegregation. I'm a child of understanding and seeing and feeling and witnessing the impact not just of segregation, but of the hatred that goes along with it. And so it was a lived experience for me. And to be able to walk in the places and witness the places where some of our civil rights icons, as well as those people who have been unnamed, those foot soldiers that we met, whose names, most of the names we don't know. But to be able to walk and to sit in places where they were and where they begin their journey as trailblazers was just something that I could not take advantage of. And so it was very impactful, and I'm glad that I was able to be a part of it.
All the Lynn place that I knew about statistically, but to be in that space made it so much more real. And not surprisingly, as somebody who's Jewish, thoughts about the Holocaust were there, even though the situations are certainly not the same. But it was hard to separate the depth of the emotion. Situations are certainly not the same, but it was hard to separate the depth of the emotion in really all the museums. In one of the museums, they showed some of the signs from Jim Crow, and they showed, no Negroes, no apes, the kinds of things that make you so angry that you almost want to tear your skin off. But of course, I'm being a little emotional here. All of those museums brought another dimension of what the experience was like.
Lynching Museum, I think it's called Peace and Justice. And the combination between seeing those depictions like caskets hanging and the thousands of them hanging, the combination of seeing that visual representing every state across this country, I think it was every state, and seeing the soil from the places where people were lynched. It just was so overwhelming, and both of those places are places that I could have just stayed, and both of them also are places that I think I would like to experience outside of a larger group, to have some sacred time, because particularly the soil. It just feels like sacred space. And I would like to be able to, and I've been thinking about it, be able to spend more time just in that space.
It was stark to me, the persistence. I mean, there were just so many things in that trip that got me. When we were at Brown's Chapel, that whole day of the pilgrimage, that blew me away. And to hear that woman share her story about what it meant for her on Bloody Sunday, and what it meant for her sister, and how she's her sister's and they won't even talk about it. Where she says it's cathartic for her to have this conversation, to do these tours, to talk about how all this stuff feels. And the sense of persistence they had. I mean, we whitewash the story and we elevate Dr. King like he was the one for Selma, but in truth, he was an add-on. And that was appreciation for me. Talking to the foot soldiers and that one guy who literally to this day, he was in Viola Loiza's car when she got killed. They thought he was dead. He left Selma and never came back until we were there. And he says, to this day, I still don't sleep at night. That blew me away.
In 1965, a group of marchers came down Dexter Avenue from Selma. They were led by Dr. King and came right past the spot where Rosa Parks was arrested, right past the site of the former slave market, right past the church and up to the same steps of the Capitol building with peacefully protests for voting rights. This is the legacy of Montgomery, not slavery or freedom, not war or peace, but both.
In the name of the greatest people that have ever trod this earth, I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny, and I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.